You are listening to KC Sports Network, the #1 podcast network for today's Kansas City sports fans. With former players from your favorite teams, informed perspectives, and former insiders, this is the place for you. KC Sports Network is proudly presented by Emprise Bank, your partner in possible.
Welcome, everybody, to the Border War podcast on the Kansas City Sports Network. We're presented by 360 Vodka. My name is Jarrett Sutton. I'm joined, as always, by my partner in crime, Jeff Hawkins. Jeff, how we doing? Happy holidays to you and your family. It's inching closer to Border War time here in KC.
It is Border War time, holiday time, a lot of basketball, Christmas trees up, lights everywhere. Yeah, we're doing good over here. Just excited for some basketball, man.
We got World Cup. We got the Chiefs rolling.
Yeah.
We got Kansas rolling, Mizzou basketball. I mean, it's just like one thing after the. We got bowl games to talk about.
Yeah.
But we're gonna stick with hoops today.
That's right.
We're gonna. We haven't. We haven't talked, Jeff, since the battle for Atlantis. We touched on KU going into that tournament against NC State. They beat NC State. They beat Wisconsin. Lose a tough one to Tennessee, where probably the game Kansas will circle as a game that they just did not play well. That's their first game where they really struggled. Didn't shoot the ball well from the field, from three. Just one of those games, right? And Tennessee and Coach Barnes, very tough team, talented, good matchup. One of those matchups, I think you actually, it's a loss, but your feast week, it's Thanksgiving time. It's one of those losses you can learn from and kind of circle is a motivating factor as you kind of look, move forward. And then Kansas comes right home. They take care of business at home. They beat Seton Hall yesterday. And really just, I thought, impressive performance from Kansas top to bottom. They got some bench production. Kevin McCullough, Jalen Wilson, both with double-doubles. So they've returned home after also some travel issues, which is never fun. And they get a couple wins at home. And it's almost time for some Border War time. Yeah.
And again, I'll date back to that. We there was a little time those games kind of hit real fast. That we couple missed, and obviously that Tennessee lost. Hopefully that's put a little fire under them. Again, when you don't shoot the ball well, and again, we talked about this covering the Tigers. When you don't shoot the ball well, you got to find ways to defend, and you got to find ways to still stay engaged. And I think they kind of struggled a little bit with the Tennessee game. But again, one of those games where it's early, and you feel like, hey, this is the right time to take a loss like that, so we can make an adjustments. And then they come back and bounce back against Texas Southern and Seton Hall. And I think Seton Hall, they really felt they really got their bounce back. Because guys were just clicking. They were really clicking on the defensive end, and they just did a lot of good things in that Seton Hall game.
You look to, you lose to Tennessee, you don't play well, but you come back against Texas Southern and really, play well. You score 87 points, and then you score 91 against Seton Hall. Yeah. So good to see the offense just bounce back. But I think what you look at with 6 guys in double figures for Kansas is a great sign. We touched on our last podcast about bench production. It's great. Jalen Wilson and DeJuan Harris and Grady Dick, those 3 guys they've proven themselves. I think it was good for Kevin McCullough to have a double-double, make some threes, build that confidence. And then another, just ho-hum performance from DeJuan Harris with 7 assists, 1 turnover, and 3 steals, which is just on par for what DeJuan Harris brings this team.
It is. And, kudos to McCullough. He's been solid, throughout the season, but I think this was a really good breakout game for him. Obviously hitting that double-double and being able to be active on the defensive end. I think the Jayhawks had 15 steals. Again, that showed a lot of sense of urgency on the defensive end. And when they normally have a good sense of urgency on the defensive end, they normally shoot a high percentage on the 3-point end, and they end up going 7 for 17 for 3. So, but you gotta, kudos to McCullough. He needed a game like this. This is a confidence builder game, especially when you put on anytime you put on a KU uniform and you can have a performance like that. It's a confidence builder. And DeJuan just being DeJuan, 7 assists, 3 steals, 1 turnover, 10 points. He's really pushing that double-double, being a double-double guy from a point assist standpoint. And we all know what to expect from Grady, and we definitely know what to expect from Jalen. Jalen has been consistent. He's a double-double guy. You gotta count on him getting a double-double every night. But guys like KJ Adams as well too. KJ starting to come into his sense, really starting to get a little bit comfortable around the rim, and not only around the rim, but in his role. But KJ had 3 steals. DeJuan had 3 steals. McCullough had 4. Grady had 2. So seeing these guys that play a majority of the minutes being active on the defensive end is something positive that you can look for with the Jayhawks.
You look at Kansas too, shooting 57% from the field in the game against Seton Hall.
Yeah.
But I look at the shot distribution between all the guys on the roster, and I think it's great to see that, Jalen Wilson 5 of 13.
Yeah.
Kevin 6 of 10. Grady was 4 of 9, got to the line 6 times.
Mm-hmm.
KJ 4 of 5. DeJuan 5 of 6. The efficiency across the board, the shot distribution, I think, is a good sign. You look at the bench production that was so good, where they get 23 points off the bench. But Ernest Uday 4 for 4, Yesufu 3 of 6, MJ Rice 2 of 4. So I think when you look at that you score 91, but Jalen Wilson's going to probably carry you, and Grady probably carry you more times than not. Yeah. But in a game like this, it's great to see the balance there in terms of shot distribution. Guys get involved. The production speaks for itself. But again, guys continuing to build, because you can't just rely on 1 or 2 guys when you're trying to ultimately get to the goal of what Kansas did last year. You're going to need your bench. You're going to need role guys to kind of step up. And I feel like that's just sort of a word. You're trying to get Zach Clements back involved after coming back from the injury and get him going. Those are things that I think I'm really going to be looking for this team. Knowing too, like KJ Adams is giving them great minutes in terms of just being productive with his minutes. He's an undersized 5, but we know what he brings them in terms of energy and effort, the toughness he brings. I think just you look at the committee, you rebound by committee, sharing the ball, getting guys involved. That's so big in terms of building towards your ultimate goal. And also ultimately Big 12 play right around the corner. Always good for guys to start playing, showing that they can really take their game to the next level.
Hey, you said it best, Jarrett. The bench, they're again, kudos to those starters. Being able to see KJ get 11, Jalen get 15, Grady get 15, DeJuan get 10, McCullough get 17. Okay, that's some balanced scoring. That's a hard scout report as well too.
Yep, no doubt.
But where the scouting report can be switched a little bit is, on that bench. Those guys, again, those starting 5 putting up numbers like that, it's going to be tough because they're hot. It's going to be tough to get some of those guys off center. But where you can leave a door open is if on the bench side, we got to get that bench going. But again, Ernest did a great job pouring in 10 points. MJ came in with 5. Yesufu pumped in 6 points. So you got to continue to get that bench. But I think and not just the bench, because I think the bench is probably a little bit better than what I'm actually giving it credit for right now. But they got to really develop those bigs. Zuby, Zach, Ernest, they got to be able to develop those guys, and they got to be able to give some really good solid minutes, especially if they want to make a deep run like they did last year, and that's a national championship run. They're gonna have to rely on those guys. If you date back to last year, early in the season, David McCormick got a lot of heat, and they're not gonna go anywhere if they can't develop a big, yada yada yada. And David hits one of the biggest jump hooks of all time in Kansas history, and I know that's the biggest shot he's ever hit. So they're gonna have to develop the bigs if they want to make a deep run. So I think it is the bench, but it's also a little bit of they got to get those bigs developed and given some good minutes, because those guys sharing about 20, almost 30 minutes, the 3 of them, that's just not going to cut it, especially when you're going against teams that when you get going that they're going to have solid bigs down the stretch.
We'll be right back here on the Border War Podcast. Welcome back to the Border War Podcast. Jeff, we're diving into Kansas, and you beat me to the punch because I was just about to, in the context of the bench, Ernest Uday, Yesufu, Zuby, Zach, MJ. Those 5 guys to me are sort of the second line that has to really developing it. Players don't stay the same during the course of a season, right? Some players emerge, some players take a back seat, and the roles and rotations start to get worked out. I think you mentioned David McCormick. I think it's a great example of you can look at a player in November, early December, and then look at them in late February and think, who is this player? We see it every year. And I think that's a great point because teams where they are right now, it's the same thing can be said for a player. The team is the same thing. A team that isn't going to stay in the same place. Where it's and Bill Self has done in his career, in my opinion, the best job of taking a team in November and early December. You're like, I have no idea what this team could be really good. They could struggle, and then all of a sudden you look up and they're right where they want to be. What's your thought to that? Like, is that an everyday? Because we see practices in the fall, and it's like a training camp. Obviously, coaches to ease off the gas as the season goes along. But it feels like there's something that Coach Self does to, and I know it's a motivating tactic he has of how he communicates, how he pushes guys, and he coaches everybody differently, which is also what's great in terms of understanding how to press the right buttons. If you will. What would what's your thoughts?
Take on that. It's funny
how Coach Self does this.
It's funny. I was, so shout out to my wife, Heather Hawkins. Yeah, we were talking about this. So we were kind of talking about the same situation. Coach Self, he's one of the best at, as far as taking a player from November, getting him ready in February. And he's also the best to me at getting players to buy in. And again, what's going really deeply on in the core of that program, I'll never know. Yeah, I've played there, but still, I'll never know.
Yeah, right.
Never know. That stuff still stays in-house, and I think that's what's special about that place because it does stay in-house. I can ask around and do some little things, but I know Coach Self, and when you bring in, it doesn't matter if you bring in a McDonald's All-American or you bring in a walk-on. And some of these guys that are freshmen, and we're talking about a freshman class that also needs to step up and start developing now, they'll get it. They're still young. But when you have guys that come from, whether it's called quote unquote being the man, high school, AAU, and they're allowed to get away with doing things the wrong way, but their coach isn't gonna, he might call them out or still gonna give them the same minutes, still give them the same amenities for not doing the right thing. Well, Coach Self's not gonna do that. And I think he's one of the best at that too, because he's not gonna do that. He doesn't care. He's gonna let you know your poop stinks, it doesn't smell good. And if you don't flush the toilet, you know what? Gosh, it stinks. You're not gonna play. So your poop stinks, and he's gonna let you know that. And he's gonna make sure you're ready, and he's going to make sure you do it the right way. And that's how you know when you're ready, because you're going to have to stay locked in. You're going to have to stay up to about 1 o'clock at night and think, is this right for me? Can I do this? But he's going to get you to invest, and he's going to get you to really dive into what he's really wanting. And that's everybody getting 2 feet in that circle and buying into what all the coaches are saying, because you can tell if a guy's not buying in fully.
Yep.
No doubt. Because they're not playing.
Right.
I mean, they're not playing. So
one of the guys that I wanted to ask you about too is a guy that coming in, I've seen this kid play before getting to Kansas and in high school, MJ Rice.
Oh, yeah.
Who McDonald's All-American. Very talented. I know he gets the comparison to Wayne Selden, which is Wayne Selden. Look out!
That's because they kind of look alike, man. I think they kind of look. They kind of have the same look, kind of like. It's weird.
Yeah,
I see it.
It's interesting though, but this is a guy that he wasn't practicing a ton because of sick. He was out with I believe COVID, and he had some setbacks, and kind of a tough, road for a freshman with the adversity that's hit, just with things he can't control. But you look at, I think I circle him as a player that's going to help Kansas in that February window. I just think he's talented. He's aggressive.
Mm-hmm.
I think mentality wise, I think he's fearless as well. I think there's always going to be a learning curve with any freshman, and every learning curve is different. But I circle him as a guy that could really, when you talk about the bench, and we're going to talk about the bench all year for Kansas. I think he could give them a lift over time. I think he can make a spot shot. He can straight line drive it. He can play through contact. I think he's a solid defender. He's going to have those mistakes and breakdowns. Well, he'll get subbed out, and he'll have some games probably where he struggles. But he's also going to have some games where you think, man, this guy is really good, and he's probably going to be a future piece of this team moving forward. Because again, when you have the right mentality, and especially playing for Bill Self when you're a freshman, you got to have that unselfish, whatever role is asked of you, go do it. And I feel like he's that guy that can do that.
He is. And I really, 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 really like MJ. Like really, 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 I like MJ for so many reasons. Obviously, he's a big guard. He's very athletic. But one of the things that really impresses me about MJ is his ability to defend and his want. There's a lot of players don't have it. His want to defend, if that makes sense. Like he wants to defend. And when you have a guy, again, I'm a defensive guy. Coach Self's a defensive coach. He loves a guy that loves to want to play defense, and that is MJ. And this is a McDonald's All-American that is not just a defensive player. He's a tough-nosed player. He's a freshman. He has the ability to score as well too. He's just trying to figure some little things out. He's just trying to figure some little things out that Coach Self, from a detail standpoint, irks probably Coach Self. And MJ is just trying to find a way to work through that. And he's starting to work through that. You can see with his minutes starting to increase. And he had a little downslope as well too, with trying to get healthy as well too. So that played a part in it as well too. But I agree with you. I think once Big 12 play, which is coming around the corner, I would say, once he's in that mid-January, early February, I think MJ's really going to start to take off because he's starting to figure it out now. You can tell with his production and his upsurge in minutes.
Jeff, we're almost there. Next week, we're talking Mizzou, Kansas for the border war. Can't wait for that matchup in Columbia. But good for Kansas to get a couple wins. And it's going to be weird to see Coach Self back on the sidelines at Mizzou Arena. The last time I saw him there was my senior year. It's like, man, I'm an old head now, man. I'm 10 years out. So
you gonna pull out your jersey, you gonna suit up, you gonna have a flashback.
No, not doing that one. Not doing that one. No more of that. Those are all retired. Those are dusted away. But we'll dive into the matchup. I'm excited to just talk stories again like we did last year. And it's an exciting time too, with I think just going to be a better matchup in general than what we were talking about last year. Obviously, it's going to be a fun one. So two good teams, two solid teams out of the gate here, and look forward to talking about Mizzou, Kansas next week on the Border War Pod.
You betcha, man. Always love sitting alongside. See you.
Absolutely. Love you, brother.